Welcome to another episode of No Ideas Original Sports. I'm here with Theo. I'm here with Reem. How you guys doing today?
All is well.
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we got to start off this week where we had some tragedy. This past week, we lost Sekou Smith and John Chaney. Man, Sekou Smith, I remember him from his articles and his time on NBA TV. And John Chaney, all the stuff he did at Temple with the 741 wins and all of the players that came out of there, going back from Aaron McKee. I actually have a friend that played for him out there in Temple or whatever, and you got Mark Macon and all these guys from years ago. I mean, how'd you guys just see that, listening and think of that whole thing this week? Take those guys going away because it seems like COVID got both of them.
Yeah, it was kind of tough to see. Was Eddie Jones there with Cheney as well?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so, right? But yeah, it was tough. Definitely tough news. So just rest in peace. My condolences go out to their families.
Yeah, he was a great coach, great ambassador to the game. Very well loved, strong figure in the college basketball community. 24 years, 17 years in NCAA tournament, over 500 wins. He was a what you call it institution at Temple, so to speak. And one reason why I guess I like Temple because of him. And he had great players like Mark Macon, Tim Perry, a few others over there he had, you know. But within the last 5 months, man, it's kind of tough losing him, John Thompson, and Hank Aaron, man. It's tough. Rest in
yeah, that's
peace.
definitely a lot. Yeah, and some of the stuff I remember Cheney, and I think it was Calipari or something
Yes.
back in the Temple UMass days.
Yeah.
Those crazy matchups and stuff.
Classic interview. Classic.
Yeah, yeah. So you had a lot of
Uh,
interesting things that happened. There's a lot of great
yeah.
moments. I think.
Yeah. That was like a WWE skit, man. He just
Yeah,
rated his interview, you know?
yeah. So it's definitely some great moments. So this week we watched our home teams, the Knicks and the Nets. We're saying both play well. There's a couple of rumors out there about players that we could be interested in, or different teams could be interested in, or something. One of the things we hear about is we keep hearing about Derrick Rose or Lonzo Ball possibly going to the Knicks. Would you guys make that deal? And if you made that deal, who would you prefer, and what would you be willing to give up for those guys?
Um, I like the idea of having either one of them. I like the idea of Rose because I think he could serve as a mentor to the team. And anytime you bring in Tibbs to your team, then Derrick Rose is always under consideration, it seems like. So I like the idea of Rose for mentorship of like quickly RJ. I think Rose is kind of at that point in his career where he stepped into that phase. So I like the idea, but at the same time, I like the idea of getting Lonzo in there as almost like as potentially a cornerstone franchise point guard because we really haven't had one in a long time. So I like the idea of it, but at the same time, quickly is kind of playing well now. Um, but for either one of them, I wouldn't give up too much. You get Lonzo in there. Lonzo is going to expect to play heavy minutes, and he's also going to expect a decent contract. So I think he's restricted free agent this summer. Um, Rose, I believe, may have 1 year left after this, or maybe he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of this year. But I don't think Rose is still he's not at that point in his career where he's trying to demand big money or anything like that. But I think he would probably prefer to go to a winner, even though he's kind of been in that mentor role the last few seasons in Detroit. But if I'm getting either one of them, I wouldn't give up too much. I would maybe throw in Dennis Smith Jr. in there if I could. Maybe a Kevin Knox. Maybe willing to part with one of those Dallas late first round picks, maybe potentially to sweeten it. But besides Smith Jr., maybe even a Ntilikina, even though I like Ntilikina for his defensive potential. Doesn't seem like he's gonna be around on the Knicks too much longer. Yeah, I wouldn't give up really any rotation players for either one of them, to be honest with you. But I like the idea of bringing in either one. But if I had to bring one in, it would probably be D Rose, just because I like the way Quickly's playing. So I don't know if we necessarily need Lonzo if Quickly continues to develop. So I would like to see D Rose kind of like mentor him. So yeah, that's my pick, D Rose for relatively cheap if I can get him.
Oh, well, the question remains, are they trying to acquire D Rose to be a second scorer? Because, we got one main scorer, which is Julius Randle. Even though Bookie's playing pretty well, he's kind of inconsistent as far as scoring. So I don't know if Tiz want Derrick Rose for his scoring ability right now. If we had Derrick Rose too as well, he might take away shots from Quickly and Julius Rose Julius Randle among others as well. I'm mainly towards Lonzo Ball. I think Lonzo Ball is a better facilitator. I think he's kind of guy has good guys in place. He's on the court. He's a better vision. I think he don't take away shots from others as well. So I will lean towards Lonzo Ball because he's a more pro point guard. But they have to figure out what you're gonna do it quickly. Is he gonna play the point guard or the two guard before you sign on making any addition to the team? What I would do is act quickly where you want to play. You want to play the two guard, you want to play the point guard. You want to play point guard, then I won't get neither one of them guys.
I mean,
if I had a choice, it would be Lonzo Ball because he's a better facilitator. He won't take away shots from the scorers on the team.
For me, I kind of like Lonzo Ball more because I like the facilitation part, but I definitely think he's going to cost a lot more than say Derrick Rose. I don't know if you could get. I don't know if you can get Lonzo Ball without giving up a rotational player. You definitely got to give up that 23rd pick, and maybe they'll take Knox and that pick maybe to get it done, and maybe some second round pick or something. But I would keep Quickly definitely, but you might have to throw in there like I don't know if they would want Austin Rivers. Maybe they want Alfred Payton back. Who knows?
Yeah, I
Maybe they
get Alpha Payton for sure.
you
And
don't think to send him out of town yourself, right?
Right.
But
We're not trading Boston. No, don't do that.
I like the distribution part, but like you said too, Kareem, that's gonna come with a hefty price tag because I wouldn't trade for Lonzo Ball unless I intended to sign him because it would make no sense just to trade him and for get him for a half a season and let him go. But I do think he'll make some of those shots easier for some of these guys. I would tell you this: I think Lonzo Ball would benefit R.J. Barrett more than any of those guys because it would he'd get him going to slash and catch you getting closer to the basket as opposed to trying to create his own shot. But right now, he's not the greatest at. I do think Derrick Rose is easily a better scorer than Lonzo Ball. But I mean, as long as Alec Burks is healthy or something,
no, don't forget RJ. RJ's playing well.
yeah,
Averaging
Yes, he is.
RJ's playing
20
well.
points over the last 10 games or so.
I like RJ, and I think he's playing well. And I like the fact that he works hard. But the one thing I think he's definitely still developing. I think he got to go with the adage work smarter, not harder, because it looks like he worked on some things, but he's got to work on his ball handling and being more fluid with the moves. Because you watch guys, and I like if you even compare him to Alec Burks, right? Alec Burks looks a little more fluid when he's making these moves, even though they're not like he's not pounding the ball, ducking his shoulder and stuff like that. It's just I guess it's either experience or different things or different types of games. I think RJ is one of those guys that probably played in an environment where he's probably been one of the bigger guys or stronger guys he's played with throughout his career. So now it's a little tougher to adjust to like an NBA. Whereas if you play this, it's almost like the New York thing. In New York, you might have a high school team with a sense of 6'5". Whereas you go to some of these other states, they used to playing against 6'10" guys from high school. So it's an adjustment period. I think he will adjust, but he's got to work on that.
Yeah, I think it comes down to how they view Quickly. I think as to which guy they get. If they view Quickly as the potential starter for the future, then you don't necessarily want to bring in Lonzo because then what do you do it quickly? Continue, I guess, maybe to use him in that 6-man role, but if you
How
don't
tall is
view
Quickly?
I know he's a combo guard, so he's about 6'3", 6'4", somewhere around there, I believe.
I mean, I think they could, if they really wanted to, they could put him at the two and let Lonzo guard the two on defense and put Quigley on the points. The
Yeah, you
point
could do
guard.
that. And maybe you could slide RJ to the three. I think too. RJ
Yeah, I
can
think he
hit
might be
three.
better suited at the three.
Um, Plus, another factor in all of this is the Zach LaVine factor, right? Do you chase him?
Well,
Um,
if I could get him, I'd drop all all these guys we were talking about. You package them all up.
this guy is 25 years old. I think he's averaging 27 this season so far.
I think if you get a guy like Zach Levine, you might have to give him the 23rd pick and Barrett or something like that. But I mean, to get a guy like that, if you put Levine with say Randall, right, and you would say, well, we get rid of your boy Peyton, we won't even let him get in the conversation. You could have a backcourt of Quigley and Levine. Well, because Levine gets about 4 or 5 assists a game. You can have a backcourt like that will last you for the next 10 years. Whereas, I mean,
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah, and what's him? Levine is an all-star level player, guaranteed.
Man, the
So,
guy's averaging 27, I think 50% shooting from two, 40% or so from three. The
yeah.
guy's a scoring machine. There's no doubt about that.
So
I kind of would like to see a pairing of him somehow, him, RJ, and quickly.
now
The
here's a
one, two.
crazier one. Well, you got it. Well, they might do that if you must gonna be throwing Obi Toppin in the deal because you got to give up something to get something. They're not gonna give you the
Yeah,
third high. They're not give you the third leading scorer in the NBA and a guy who was number 5 or 6 last year for Alfred Payton in the second rounder. You're gonna have to give something up. So you got to decide whether you're giving up Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin, R.J. Barrett, or two or three number one picks. That's gonna be your options because I couldn't see nobody else on the roster they would want.
I'm more inclined to be honest with you. I'm more inclined to probably give him a couple of picks because I think the Knicks.
They would take that.
Yeah, I would give him a couple of picks before I included like RJ, Obi. Just give up the picks because I think the Knicks, them drafting, they don't have a tendency to draft the right players.
the
So
only the only
you
thing I
take
would
that decision out of their hands by just giving them draft picks.
the only thing I would be concerned about in that deal is that if you bring Levine in, I don't want to bring in a guy that's a dominant player to fit in. I don't want Levine to go from 27 or 28 to 19 so that RJ and JR Randall could get points. I want Levine to be Levine and for them to sacrifice. So if you're going to bring Levine in and turn him into a 17 or 18 point scorer because we want to see RJ Barrett succeed, then I wouldn't even make the deal. Because the
Yeah,
whole purpose of bringing him in is to be who he is, not to fit in.
Ben, I would agree with that. I want him out there trying to score.
Yeah, we don't want him doing what James Harden did the first couple of games with the 15, 17, and 18. Lose, lose, and lose. Lose to Cleveland twice. You don't want that guy. And I heard another crazy rumor. Did you hear that the Nets guys are looking at Levine? I'm like, what are the Nets going to do with Levine? Where's he going to play at?
Yeah,
Who do you have to get
basketball.
him?
Yeah, exactly. What are they going to trade? Joe Harris now to get Levine? I mean, what kind of craziness? How many scores they gonna have on the roster? We just gonna outscore? If we gonna score 180 a night or something? Yeah, I think that's crazy.
Yeah. Um, I guess that's a segue into as it pertains to the Nets with the Andre Drummond rumors. I
I
do think
mean,
he's more suited, but at the same time, it goes back to Drummond doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands because he does a lot of the dirty work. But I don't know if Drummond can still be Drummond outside of the rebounding. Can he be Drummond on the offensive end with that
um,
Nets team?
I don't think he'll necessarily be a scorer, but I will tell you this: he'll change their team defensively because I didn't realize that German was top 10 in blocks and steals last year. So he'll change a lot defensively in there, and he'll fill in a lot of holes that they have as far as rebound and stuff. Plus, too, I think they could work out the scoring because what it comes down to is who's on the court at the same time. I do find this, as opposed to Kyrie, Harden will get you the ball. Kyrie, I don't know what's going going on with him at times. Kyrie is just out there playing like he's playing in the park. But I think Harden, if you're open, Harden will at least get you the ball. And the
Now,
strange thing is Harden sacrifices and KD sacrifices, but Kyrie doesn't sacrifice. So that's a problem right there.
if I'm Andre Drummond now, do I want to go to the Nets in a contract year? Because ultimately, let's say they win a championship, but he goes over there and from averaging 15 rebounds, 18 points, or whatever it is, now he's averaging 7 points and still getting his rebounds. Is he going to get paid? From a winning standpoint, it's nice, but Drummond is still in that mode, I'm sure, of I want to get paid. The guy is young. He's about, what, 25, 26 years old, something like that? So he's looking for a big payday, which is part of the reason why Detroit got rid of him, because they didn't want to have to pay him. So you send him over to Cleveland. Now Cleveland is thinking the same way. You're bringing in Jared Allen, so they don't have to pay him.
I think Drummond will do very good with the Nets because he gives them defense, some kind of inside defense as well. Because with the attention that Harden and Kyrie and KD, I guess, come with, he'll have more open space to get rebounds with offensively or defensively. I see him get a lot of putbacks, and plus with his size and his weight and his strength, I can see him winning a battle with anybody in the paint 1-on-1 as far as getting rebounds concerned. So I see him get a lot of good putbacks and stuff of that nature, though. But if we go to the Nets, that'd be a good look for them. And I like him better than any other big man as far as getting rebounds in a 1-on-1 situation on either side of the court.
Yeah, and I think it'll help them too if you think about like future matchups. Maybe they match up much better with a team like the Sixers in the playoffs with Drummond, as opposed to having DeAndre Jordan for 20 minutes and Reggie Perry or whoever.
Yeah, Joel Embiid, I don't think will be pushing Drummond around down low in the paint. Drummond is what, 6'11", 280, something like that?
Yeah,
Right.
Big dude. As a Knicks fan, I was hoping maybe we could possibly get him. You say, well, why would you need him if you have Mitch? But I don't see Mitch actually developing into that type of player that Drummond is. So as a Knicks fan, I wouldn't mind to see Drummond in the Knicks uniform, especially considering Drummond is from Mount Vernon too. So bringing him home.
I like Drummond and Randall's a good combo. That's a good combo. Randall and Drummond, that's a good combo. It is.
I think so. I mean, you think about it. I think he probably would fit in. But Mitch would go to the bench, but I think he would fit in much better than Mitch for what they're trying to do too. I mean, you figure you got Randall, you got Toppin, you got Barrett, or something. You got Quigley, so you got some shooters. And again, we always talk about like getting more shooters and whether guys shoot well or not. If you got a guy that can clean up the boards, that kind of erases some of that. Having to be great shooters too. So that'll definitely help. I think it would be a real good pickup.
And plus, you could always, you don't want to quote unquote give up on him because he's a good young developing center, but you could always leverage Mitch in a trade for one of these guards, somebody who could shoot, maybe somewhere in Alonzo Ball.
You might be able to, I tell you what, I think you could probably get Lonzo Ball if you gave him Mitch. I'm pretty much sure you could.
So yeah, I would try to leverage him potentially if I'm bringing in Drummond in one of those type of moves for one of these guards. I don't know if the Bulls want him per se because they have marketing over there. They just drafted the other big, right?
Yeah,
Florida State. So they have some bigs over there. They got
the guy
from Carter, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if they need another big over there and like a potential Levine deal, but the Pelicans, man, even though they have Zion and just the other big man from OKC who went over there.
Steven Adams?
Yeah, Steven Adams. They have him clogging the paint, but Mitch kind of fits a little more because he's a rim runner, can play above the rim than like a Steven Adams.
Yeah. Would you, if you were going to move Mitch, would you consider moving him to a team like Charlotte for like Devontae Adams, what's his name,
Oh, Graham.
Devontae Graham, and maybe Malik Monk, or what's him? Even if they decided to give you somebody like Miles Bridges,
I've heard some interesting deals surrounding Julius Randle to the Hornets
yeah,
for like Miles Bridges and Graham. Now that
I would do that deal.
yeah, I would do that deal because you open it up for Obi. Then to me, it really a lot of this depends on where the Knicks are as they approach the trade deadline. If they're where they are now, I think right now they're in the eighth seed. I don't know if I'll do anything drastic per se, but if they start to slip a little, then why not? Why not leverage Randall and whoever else, Mitch? Because obviously you are in a team that's ready to win right now, so to speak. So why not try to get more pieces for the future?
Yeah,
Whereas the Hornets, I think the Hornets are kind of like in that win. Not they're still young, but I think they're. If you bring in a Randall, right? They got Hayward, LaMelo Ball. They got a ton of guys, so they may go into that kind of like win now mode if they were to bring in like a Randall or something like that. So no, it should be interesting.
You guys rather have Bridges or Levine?
I'd rather have Levine if I could get him. I mean, I
Yeah,
like Bridges, and I think Bridges will be. I think Bridges is improving, but I think Levine is a very underrated player. I think a lot of people don't give him the credit that he deserves. If you look even back when he's on Minnesota, I bet you right now Minnesota's realizing they made a mistake when they decided to keep Wiggins and get rid of him.
and even Wiggins, now that you bring him up, he's playing well, right?
Yeah, he'll probably be available soon, soon too. Either
I don't
him or
want him though.
Kelly Oubre. I would take him.
I don't want Kelly Oubre either. Kelly Oubre is Oubre better than Kevin Knox right now?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
yeah,
How much better?
The one thing I like about Oubre, and it rubs opponents the wrong way, is the guy plays with a lot of tenacity.
yeah.
Right, so
I
he'll
think
catch
he's got
those
a.
dunks. He's staring people down, and I think the Knicks need that type of,
They need
those
some
type of
dogs.
guys.
Yeah.
Whereas Kevin Knox is out there smiling, just happy to beat it. There's no real tenacity. That's a lot of the Knicks players, no real tenacity. So I think that's one thing Oubre would bring. Um, I don't think you would have to give up much to bring him in. I think Knox is probably a better shooter than Oubre, especially this Golden State Warriors Oubre. He's struggling from the outside, but the guy is tough. Physical player, good defender.
Well, let's do a three-way trade with Charlotte, Chicago, and the Knicks, man, so we could get Levine and we could somebody else. Why not? Let's do it. Levine and Bridges, why not?
But
Oh
I
yeah,
wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind Bridges either because I think Bridges slides right into like the small forward spot for the Knicks. So you would, let's say, have quickly RJ with Bridges at the small forward.
yeah,
Um, like you said, if you're giving up Randall, then now you have Graham in there, right? Devontae Graham is a perimeter player. Then you slide in Obi to the power forward spot. So it's a lot of interesting ways I think the Knicks can improve. Um,
so,
Well, right now, Obi look like a small four right now, Obi topping. Or on threes he taking.
hmm,
yeah, it's strange because I think that's part of the problem is you have Mitch, right, who has no outside game, right? So Mitch is just set a pick and roll to the basket. Then you bring in Obi with Mitch sometimes, right? And they're both looking to do the same thing. You can't have two guys rolling to the same spot on the court.
yeah,
Randall's not a good enough shooter from the outside to open it up for either one of those guys. So you don't really have to respect Randall from outside too much. So that's why I think Obi kind of gets caught where he's doing more like pick and pops. He's popping out to the 3 point line, like you said, shooting threes.
Mhm.
Size wise, he could probably play small forward, but I don't think Obi has the lateral quickness. That's what kills
yeah.
him. His
That
lateral
was his knock
quickness.
going into the draft. His defense, being able to check smaller guys and stuff. Hey, a couple of minutes ago, we brought up something interesting about Drummond getting traded from Detroit. I want to go back to that Detroit thing because I happen to think even when it happened, I thought that Detroit traded the wrong one of the two between Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. Where do we think Blake Griffin's at right now? Because I think he needs a change of scenery, and I think he needs to be downgraded. Because I think a lot of times when we think of Blake Griffin, we think of the Clippers Blake Griffin. Right now, we should be thinking like Aaron Gordon Blake Griffin. That's probably where he's at right now. He might not be as good as Aaron Gordon at this.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd rather have Aaron Gordon. At the very least, Gordon is going to be on the court. Blake Griffin, I think, at this point in his career, he's close to done. I think, unfortunately, it has nothing to do with skill. It's more so of his body. Um, he's one of those guys where it's been impressive though watching him like transform his game because he developed more, I would say, playmaking skills since he's been on Detroit. He's extended his game out to the 3-point line. So that's been fun to watch. The guy has definitely developed his skill, but he just unfortunately can't stay healthy. I think he falls into like the Kevin Love category. Plus, he's on a pretty big contract, so I don't know how many years he has left. So who trades for him? He needs, like you said, probably could use a change of scenery, but I don't know who's willing to take on that contract for a guy who can't really stay healthy.
Yeah, he's not the same player as he was before the injuries. He did get better before he got hurt with his jump shot, shooting better jump shots. But it seems like now he's more of a stay in the ground or stay on the floor, I should say, kind of player on both sides of the floor. To move as well, I guess, with all the knee surgeries he had or injury he had. Maybe a team like the Miami Heat. To use some size, some depth, some veteranship, I guess ask them for to make a playoff run. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know what else he brings though, because he doesn't really bring too much after that. So like Keanu said, the LA Clipper version, he was great, man. But right now, I'm not quite sure what can he give any team as far as I guess a non-competitive team. A team who's trying to go for a chip, why not take a chance on them? But something like the Knicks or Atlanta Hawks, something like that, nah. If you're the Clippers, go for it.
Yeah.
Miami Heat, go for it. I would say even Dallas Mavericks, go for it.
You know what? That might be a good spot for him. The Dallas Mavericks, that might be a good spot for him. Thinking about it, that's a good call because you watch them; they look like they're missing something. They don't even look as good as they were last year.
Yeah, which is actually a good sign for us as Knicks fans, right? Because we have their pick this year. So I watch almost every Dallas game that I can, hoping they lose. But I think the scary part, on paper, I like him in Dallas, but in reality, now you take on another guy if you're them who has health concerns, because KP, you can't deny the guy's ability, his talent, but can he stay healthy? So now you add Blake Griffin to it. You got two guys in the front court who you got to be concerned about in terms of health, load management, and everything else. So, but on paper, I like him over there. I think he wouldn't necessarily have to log heavy minutes. He needs to be on the team where he could kind of like slide into that veteran role and play 20 minutes a game. And be a scoring punch, like you said, provide some veteran leadership, that kind of thing. Dallas would be good, but can he stay healthy?
Right.
Here's another question. If you're the Nets, because I could see not just Drummond, but I could see a guy like if Drummond doesn't go, I could see JaVale McGee probably hitting that free agent cut for him. There'll be a couple of guys out there. So would you bring on a guy like JaVale McGee to complement DeAndre Jordan?
Yeah, I think so. Because the last thing they need is the Nets is more scoring. I think JaVale McGee he's a pretty solid defender. The guy has long arms, right? So even if he's not blocking shots, he's altering shots. He's decent rebounder. He's athletic. He's not going to put up any gaudy numbers, but you really don't need him to. You stand there in the paint, alter shots, get an occasional block, and make sure you rebound the ball and set decent picks for their big three. So I like a guy like JaVale McGee over there.
Yeah, he would be a good addition to the Nets. I agree with you on that, Reem. He's athletic. I'm quite sure he learned a lot with LA with LeBron and AD as far as like, team ball and positioning and stuff like that, So he's a veteran too, man. So he's a very capable guy on defensive end of the ball. So him blocking shots, he's a good dunker. He fills the lane, catch the lane. So that'd be a good addition to the Nets if they could get him.
Yeah. And I got a fun last basketball question for you guys as Knicks fans. There's a guy that can shoot the ball great that's becoming a free agent, improved his game and everything. His name is Tim Hardaway Jr. He'll be a free agent after he's into the season. You guys interested in bringing Tim Hardaway Jr. back for round two?
Third stint.
Yeah.
Uh, I wouldn't. Um, I like Tim Hardaway Jr. I like when we drafted him. I like that era with him, Shump. That's when Carmelo was kind of like in his prime over there, stat. But I don't think I could sign up for a third stint of Tim Hardaway. Um, and I'm not sure he would be interested in it either. Given that they kind of gave up on the guy twice, it would be hard for me to see him come back. But I do like him. I like him. He appears to be, a hardworking guy, and like you said, he can shoot the ball. So he has a place on the team, skill wise. I just don't know how he fits in terms of a third stint on the team.
Yeah, he has the ability to be a problem at any given moment with his jump shot. He can take over a game, take over a quarter at any given moment. Um, with the Knicks, I think the problem was his contract, not really him as a player. When Phil gave him $21 million, that was ridiculous, man. Like, come on now. We outbid ourselves, give this guy $70+ million with the moderate rate. That was really the issue. So it really more of his contract more than him the player itself. But like Reem said, I don't know, if he want to come back as a third term in New York. Some guys love New York City, man. Some guys love it. Some guys don't care. So I wouldn't be shocked if he came back. But if he did come back, is he going to start? He's come off the bench. That means like, what, he's playing the 2 or he's playing the 3. He can't play the 4, can't play the 1. So
Yeah,
I'm
that would
saying if he
be
come back to the team, who's going to start? Is he going to come off the bench? I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
would
so.
probably use him. Yeah, I would probably use him as a off the bench scoring punch if I brought him back.
I think it would be. I think it would be tough to do that unless you paid him, because I got a funny feeling that he's going to get a decent piece of change out there on the free agent market. Because like Theo said, with that ability to shoot, they paying people a premium. Like some of these guys, like I mean, I don't want to bring up the contracts. He's not taking a Kyle Kuzma deal. He's definitely
Mhm.
not taking a Kuzma deal.
Um,
That's
but
like
does he,
that's like the litmus of bad deals for young guys right now. Kyle Kuzma deal.
do you see him getting paid more or the same as like a Duncan Robinson? Because Robinson, I believe, is a free agent this summer too. And he's a premier shooter. So do
I
you
see
see?
them in the I see those guys. Believe it or not, I can see them making 15. They looking at. Think about it. Joe Harris just got what 5 years for 85 or something like that, or
Yeah,
7. So they're gonna be looking for between 15 and 17. I can tell you that. 14 to 17, somewhere between that per year. The more years, the less annually. So if you sign Tim Hardaway to 4 years, it's gonna be for at least 60. It's gonna be somewhere between 60 and 80 or something. So
And that's the scary part is after the first year or two, you're gonna be looking to trade him again. It'll be his third time leaving again. It's like Theo said, it hasn't been him as the player. As a player, it's been the contract. That's not a horrible contract, but who else is looking to sign Tim Hardaway? Let's say to a 60 to 80 million dollar deal.
only place
Maybe Dallas. Maybe they'll look to bring him back because, like you said, what pieces do they have? They don't have too many other options.
they almost have to, because he's one of the only people that's healthy every game or something. So they almost have to bring him back.
But if you're the Knicks, do you have interest in Duncan Robinson on the flip side?
I think you do, but I think again that's another guy. Is he going to? If you're not going to start Tim Hardaway, you're going to start Duncan Robinson, because Tim
Yeah.
Hardaway can at least play some defense and go to the basket a little bit. Duncan Robinson He can't even put the ball on the floor. And you're going to have to set screens to free him up. So somebody else going to have to get him open.
What he does do, both of them, I think, but Robinson, all for whatever reason, all those screens and everything else seems to throw off teams' defense. Like when you see a guy running around all those screens and stuff like that, you have to pay attention to him. So Tim Hardaway, you could kind of like key in on him if he's at the top trying to pound the ball to get his shot off. But when you see a guy running around a million screens, he kind of like draws attention. And that's when guys like, let's say, Mitch, Obi, that's when it opens it up for those guys, right? Now you got that space to run to the rim. So if we can't get a Levine or Miles Bridges or something like that in one of these trades, then I'm leaning towards why not throw a decent contract at Robinson to be a starting small forward.
Not a bad deal. You got to kind of figure out. The problem with the Knicks is that it's not really a problem. It's just you got to decide who you're going to keep and who you're going to build on and who you're going to let go. Because if you bring in Duncan Robinson, you pretty much have to get rid of Julius Randle. Because it's either that or Toppin. Because Duncan Robinson, as a matter of fact, Duncan Robinson might be the same age as Toppin. Because Toppin was 4 years, right? Or maybe a year older.
Toppin is, I think, 22.
Yeah, so you figure you got two guys that's playing the same position or should be around the same age, and you got Julius Randle, who, I mean, to his credit, could play the power forward or something, but I mean, if you want him to play there, so if you put Julius Randle out there, I mean, I think in that scenario, Toppin will be the odd man out.
I think they just have to, like we were saying before, they just have to figure out which direction they want to go in. Are you in win now mode, or are you in build around the younger pieces? Because their whole team is mostly young, but Randall is one of the older guys at 25. Austin Rivers is about 28 or so. So do you want to go with what you have with those guys, or do you want to just go completely young?
I mean, I got a better thought on that. So if you do decide to bring in a guy like Duncan Robinson, right? Can you make RJ the sixth man? Because Duncan Robinson can technically play the two guard. And let him play the perimeter and shoot and run around screens and set and make RJ come off the bench.
RJ, whether he reaches that potential, I don't know. But they kind of, they're at least so far, they're banking on this guy to be one of the franchise cornerstones. And he has the potential to be. He's only 20 years old. I think he's shown great improvement from year 1 to 2 so far. Still has to work on that perimeter game, like you said. Can get a little more fluent, a little more crafty with the ball in his hands. I think he's tough, RJ. So I would continue to start RJ and potentially build around him unless you can get like a Levine or something like that, and they just so happen to want RJ in the deal, something like that. But other than that, I would kind of continue to build around RJ if I can.
Well, in that case, I would probably just keep the guys I have unless it's a point guard type of deal because those guys, for one thing, you can't really bring a guy in and play him 18 million or 17 million to come off the bench. And if you can't give it to Randall and you committed to Randall or you committed to Toppin and these guys, you don't want to. It'll ruin the development of the team to bring somebody in for 17 million and just have them not play or to play, 22 minutes a game at 17 million.
I think the guy who, in theory, has to go is Randall, but he's playing too well to just get rid of him. Why get rid of him? But he's the guy I think who has to go if you think OB is going to become what you drafted him to become. Then you leverage trading Randall for some of these additional pieces, maybe the Hornets deal we keep mentioning with Miles and Graham or something like that. But I think Randall is the guy who, in theory, you eventually get rid of. But do you do it if he continues to play at an all-star level?
I think so.
I don't know what Duncan Robinson. I'm not quite sure on him, Duncan Robinson. I'm not really sold on him. He's a great shooter, though, but I'd rather keep my team intact than go after Duncan Robinson. I'm quite sure he's going to want $20 million knowing him. He's a great shooter. He's a great shooter. So, with that being said, does he play Do you play defense that good enough to give him 20 million?
No.
Not really. So I mean, I'd rather just keep Julius Randle try to get Levine before I try to get Mitchell Duncan Robinson. I should say. I'm sorry.
So,
And Tibbs,
guys,
is a win now coach, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, guys, let's move on to football. What do we think of the Texans' the hire as new coach? I mean, I could just give you one brief thing that I thought was kind of crazy to me. Is don't get me wrong. I mean, I like seeing a minority, get a shot, and I don't knock all of that, right? He's assistant head coach for several years, and that's great. But to say that he was the Ravens passing coordinator and use that as a leverage to get a job is insane. Because the Ravens had the worst passing offense in the whole NFL. So I definitely would not have hired him based on being the Ravens passing coordinator. So what
Yeah,
do you guys consider a hire? I mean, it just throws me off like that is like minorities in competition with himself. I mean, it's nice to see he got hired, but to me, I think Bieniemy probably was more qualified. But again, I mean, I mean, it's an opportunity for a minority, so it's kind of tough. What do you guys think of that whole
yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. I like seeing him hired because he's a minority. So seeing him get a shot is good. But given that he was the, the passing um, coach for the Ravens, it's definitely a red flag there.
I think they gave him credit for the development of Lamar Jackson. And plus, you got to be fair though. You kind of evaluate him from Lamar's year so far at Baltimore. I guess Lamar's first year or two, he was doing pretty good. He's MVP. So from sources say, from what I read, he's getting a lot of credit for Lamar's progression as a quarterback. Um, as far as him being a good hire for Texans, I wouldn't hire him.
thing?
I wouldn't hire him. I would hire whoever Deshaun wants.
Yeah,
That's what I would
Yeah,
do. Reach out to Deshaun, see where his head is at, and whatever he wants, try to obtain it.
I mean, I even heard something crazy where the guy got the job and said something like he got the job under the pretenses that Deshaun Watson would be the quarterback. I don't know how they could make that assumption or even think to promise him anything like that because there's a good chance that if Deshaun Watson doesn't get traded, he might not show up to camp and all types of stuff. I mean, as far as Deshaun Watson, I mean, well, I got to tell you guys this, man. I know you guys know who Todd McShay is, right? I've completely lost faith in Todd McShay as of this week. The man put an article out and said that he would not trade for Deshaun Watson because he wasn't worth the draft picks and he was only slightly better than Sam Darnold. I don't know what TV statistics, planet, or anything he was on, even comparing was him Deshaun Watson to Sam Darnold. Deshaun Watson right now has the highest completion percentage of an NFL quarterback in the history of football. He completed 80% of his passes this year. Second, the closest was Aaron Rodgers. Right now. They said if you look statistically, he would be second in the MVP voting behind Aaron Rodgers, and if his team won, he might have beat Aaron Rodgers.
yeah. I didn't get that. For one, yeah, he's light years ahead of Donald. And plus, their games are nothing alike either. Deshaun can throw the ball and he can get outside the pocket and make plays with his legs. So I don't. Yeah, it's a little crazy to compare him to Donald and say that he's slightly better. That was definitely a crazy analysis there.
That was an asinine analysis. That's what it was. Point blank and simple. I don't know how you figure that. How can you even think that, let alone say that? Michelle
Yeah.
should be embarrassed of himself. Deshaun is just a better quarterback all around. He can extend plays. He's just as accurate, even more accurate. Have a stronger arm. So I mean, I don't see where he has this guy being better than or slightly better or less than Darnold. Makes no sense to me.
Well, we see the Texans, their talent evaluation and thought process is falling apart because now J.J. Watt has basically said he's done in Houston too. He doesn't want to be there anymore either.
Yeah, I figured once Watson was out, then he would be too. So no surprise there for me. It only makes sense for him to move on.
Houston needs to just blow up the whole damn thing, start fresh, blow up everything. Get rid of JJ, get rid of Watson, whoever you got, running back, whoever we got left, just blow the whole damn thing up, start fresh. Do what the Cowboys did years ago with Jimmy Johnson. We traded Herschel Walker for all those draft picks. Hopefully, those draft picks you score well on, or you hit on the head, so to speak. Those guys got able to play right away and develop right away. Get rid of both of them, man, and start fresh.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you think about as great as Deshaun Watson played with the limited talent he had, they still only won four football games. So there's no way that they're going to be able. They gave up their draft capital to Arizona basically in a lopsided deal. They got a second round pick for just arguably one of the top one or two receivers in the game. So they really don't know what they're doing over there. And I mean,
Right.
a new guy, he needs a shot to probably both of them, from the coach and the GM. They need to kind of put their footprint on the team, to start make their own splash. So I definitely would blow it up.
Yeah, agreed.
So we're talking about movement of quarterbacks. Do we think Aaron Rodgers may have played his last days in Green Bay, or do we think he even wants to move on from Green Bay? Because that could be a possibility too.
Um, that's a good question. If I'm Green Bay, I certainly want him back. Will be the reason of getting rid of him or wanting him gone. I get the whole Green Bay kind of has a history of doing that. They kind of did it to Brett Favre. Now maybe it's his turn, but the guy is just playing at too high of a level to want to get rid of him. Whether he wants out, I'm not sure, but I can't really see any real reason why he would want out either. Um, Unless there's some behind the scenes stuff we don't know about, because Green Bay is one of those teams. They're always in a position to win. Um, so where would he go that's going to put him in an even better position to win? I'm not sure. So I think both of them, I think they should at least run it back one more year.
Yeah, there's something going on behind the scenes, but I don't think it's too serious enough for them to, force Aaron Rodgers out or him demand a trade. I think Aaron Rodgers is frustrated for his team always drafting a quarterback the last few years. Instead of drafting somebody of need of his defense or offense. You can't draft this guy Love with the first pick in the draft, and Aaron Rodgers is on the back end of his prime, so to speak. So I think Aaron's just frustrated because how the season went. They've had a good year, and I'm quite sure a player here and there they probably could have beat the Buccaneers. But Aaron's just frustrated. He always passes the blame. No, that what Aaron does. He always passes the blame on somebody. But he's just frustrated, and he's trying to, give an indirect threat to the team to, improve the team before he goes, so to speak.
Yeah, I think you're right there because those draft picks for sure. I mean, think about it. Besides Devontae Adams, they really haven't given them. I mean, the running back situation is a lot better than what it was. The offensive line, we could tell that needs work because the way the Bucks were all over him, that was just insane. He got pressured more than I had seen most quarterbacks get pressured in a long time in that game. And the receivers, they drop passes and stuff like that. So he could definitely use a definite number two receiver, a couple of offensive linemen, and again, the secondary seems to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And they could probably use the pass rush. Did they even touch Tom Brady? It didn't even seem like to when it counted, he never got touched. I don't remember him getting sacked. You?
Maybe once, maybe that's about it. They could
Yeah.
use
So
they could use a good tight end to stretch the field through the
yeah.
seams.
So they need some players to help them and get around them. I could sense his frustration. You draft a quarterback in the first round. I mean, they definitely didn't need to draft a quarterback there.
Right.
So and then I guess some of the higher draft picks they picked, they doing okay, but not necessarily. I think the year before, did they draft for Sean Gary from Michigan or something? think the defensive tackle or defensive end. He was
Tackle,
from,
yeah.
and I
Is he
haven't
on
heard much.
is he on the team still?
Yeah, he was on the. So that ought to tell you a lot. And he was a first round pick. So
Mm.
that that ought to tell you we haven't heard anything. So it's a little tough, and I can understand that. I mean, this week we also heard Randy Moss. We talk about player movement and different things. We heard Randy Moss say that the players was this no more of the what's him shut up and play. The players are taking more control of their destiny. Do we really see that happening, or do we think that the players will be able to continue to do this or do this? I mean, I happen to think that eventually, I mean, unfortunately, I think owners will try to put something in a way to try to prevent some of this stuff. What do you guys think?
I think we kind of already been there, especially starting with the whole LeBron James thing, right? The whole shut up and dribble thing. So we kind of already been here for a little while. Um, I think it's good to see players taking um, more away from the owner, so to speak, because for a while it's been um, the other way around. So I kind of like the movement, but like you said, obviously the owners don't. So I could easily see them trying to put parameters in place to at least slow the movement down. But I like the movement of players basically taking control, more control, I should say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it started with LeBron did this too, you know. When LeBron was trying to show people to, control your destiny, he got harassed and, backlash, so to speak. But it's been overdue for a while for players to control their destiny. Because at the end of the day, right now, we live in an era where a lot of these players are, I guess, judged on rings, so to speak. So I think a lot has to do with guys controlling their destiny. So if you're an athlete and he's saying, well, Kareem or Kenyatta, you ain't good because you ain't no chip. After a while, it gets to your head, especially when you're playing in an era when it's about rings and chips. So you score 30 points a game and throw 50 touchdowns to be the best in the league. But if you ain't no chip, they're gonna criticize you and say you ain't the best. So if that got part two as far as the guys want to control the destiny. They're tired of hearing that they can't be the best, not one of the best, because they don't have a chip. But other than that, it's been overdue. It's got to see.
I mean, I think just by what you're saying, which is definitely true, winning seem to take a premium. So if the owners do want to do something, they should take some of that into account because these guys wouldn't want to move if the situation they were in was a good situation. Nobody's trying to move from a winning situation or whatever. And most of them, I can't say they're not getting paid, but anytime you get guys getting paid maximum money that still don't want to be where they're at, you know it's about something else. We
Right.
just talk about Deshaun Watson. He's getting a mega deal. Aaron Rodgers, mega deal. And these are guys that was in the top players in the league that Watson already said he doesn't want to be there, and Aaron Rodgers is on the fence. So that should be an indictment on ownership as far as how they go about handling the teams. This week, I mean, we unfortunately we had a crazy incident with Chad Wheeler. I mean, I know you guys seen that on the news and seen what happened and everything. I mean, I just think that was complete. I'm glad to see Seattle reacted so quickly because that's just completely unacceptable. The way he beat up, I think it was his fiance or wife. That was kind of insane. I mean, you guys get a chance to see that footage and the way it was, that whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree, and I'm glad, like you said, they reacted. The organization right away. There's just no place for that um, in general. So hopefully the guy gets what's coming to him, I should say. But yeah, definitely no place for that um, at all.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate. Um, the problem I have with that is that it happened a few days ago before it got let out. And you have a lot of the black, I would say, black commentators on these shows, speak up on it. It probably went a little more further before it got exposed. It's been like what 2 or 3 days before info came out. But look at Ray Rice. Look at Ezekiel Elliott. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, the info about those guys came out immediately, not 2 or 3 days
yeah,
later. You know, so it
yeah,
tells you that we still have a long way to go as far as being treated the same way, whether it's in the media or any other outlet, so to speak. But the situation is very unfortunate, man. I'm sorry it happened, but hopefully he gets some help. I'm glad Seattle made a swift move, like you said, and got rid of him and cut him. Right now, he needs some help. He needs some kind of evaluation, man, because what he did to Lee's face is it's tough to see.
yeah.
Uh,
And I think you're right. I'm glad you brought that up. That it didn't hit the mainstream news that quick, and it wasn't put out there right away. It did kind of, and even the story itself, like Ray Rice and these guys, you've seen it plastered all over Sports Center. This we didn't see plastered all over Sports Center. So you're
Right.
absolutely right. This was kind of like, as a matter of fact, if you look on ESPN's site, I mean, it wasn't plastered on there either. It's like a blurb or something. You really have to be in touch or really read the sports to have seen it.
Agree.
yeah, agreed.
Heck, so as New York fans and Yankee fans, we no more Tanaka. Tanaka's headed back to Japan. I mean, I personally think that with the new additions of Kluber and bringing in other pitchers and the guy from Pittsburgh, I thought it was time for some fresh blood. I mean, J Hop is gone, thankfully. So I thought it was time for some fresh blood to give a couple of other guys a shot. What would you guys have wanted to bring Tanaka back, or are you fine with him going?
I'm fine with him going. Like you said, it's good to get some fresh blood in there, give some other guys opportunities. So I was fine to see him go back.
Yeah, he gave us 7 good years. I'm not mad at him. I wouldn't mind him staying or going, honestly. Um, what it was that I guess his demand salary wise was kind of steep for his point in his career and for Yankees liking, so to speak. This is why he waited so late now to decide to go back to Japan to play baseball. And once I guess we can decide to a good price, the Yankees liking, then you see the Kluber deal, and the deal for Pittsburgh pitcher Talon, I think his name is
Yeah.
from Pittsburgh. Then you see the deal with him came along, and now right now 3 4 days later, here comes Tanaka saying he's going back home. So it's like a chain of command. You can see what's happening, so to speak. But if his price demand was reasonable, he would be a Yankee, and that's a real issue.
So I got another question around this. So I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at Cole, Severino, Tylon, Kluber, and then there's Montgomery, and then there's Domingo Herman. Do we think we see Domingo Herman suit up in a Yankees uniform this year?
Talent wise, he probably should, but it's another guy, domestic violence, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So that may have soured a bit of his opportunities. So that's a good question. I'm not sure, but talent wise, he has the talent to be out there, but whether he should be, um, I guess
Yeah.
remains to be seen.
I keep seeing his name out there on certain outlets as far as being in the rotation, but I don't believe. I think it's just part of just an article being put out there. I don't see Yankees bringing him back. Um, yeah. Also, you got another young kid they put out there last year, Garcia, I think it was. Got his
Yeah,
name.
he's pretty good.
Yeah,
Right,
I
right,
can't.
right. He got some stuff. So, and I'm all for throwing one of the young kids out there, man. Just throw him in the fire. At least one kid throw him in the fire for a whole full season. Let it be Garcia or any other kid that got coming up. Choose one kid from the farm, just throw him in the fire. Let him go 5 and 8, wherever he's gonna go through and lick his wounds and develop him like that, man. Because we need to start getting younger too, as far as our pitching concerned.
Yeah. So you got what's him you got the Mets still in this Trevor Bauer race with the Jays. Do you think the Mets can bring in Trevor Bauer? They traded away Steven Matz. It looks like to clear up some salary cap room to do it. Do you think the Mets realistically can bring Trevor Bauer in?
Yeah, I think they have a shot. Like you said, they made some moves to clear up some space, some money. So I think they have a shot. Plus, so far, the new owner, right, ownership certainly doesn't mind spending money. It seems like so. I think they have a decent shot.
Well, that would be a great addition for the Mets to get Trevor Bauer. I'm quite sure the Mets don't want to be in a position to lose two players to the Blue Jays in one
Yeah,
week or a few weeks. So that being said, listen, Mets, man, you got a new owner. He spends money like George Steinbrenner supposedly. Go get him. You're making moves to open up more money, I guess, to get Trevor Bauer. Go for it. You get Bauer, they got maybe arguably the best rotation in baseball.
yeah.
American League or National League. Mets got pieces in place. They can use a big batter in the middle of the lineup though, but they have hitters too as well. But they won't win the chip with pitching. When you get
I,
Bauer, they could do it.
I will say this, like you said, Theo, that would be pretty funny to lose Springer and then lose Bauer to the Blue Jays and have traded him Steven Matz too. That would be funny.
Man, definitely not a good look.
Right.
Hey, I'm also hearing about this rumor about Nolan Arenado getting traded to the Cincinnati Reds, possibly, and
No,
some
the Cardinals, done deal.
to the Cardinals.
Yes, done deal.
Done deal?
Yes, sir.
Wow. So I guess
That's
the
what I
Cardinals
said.
Cardinals are throwing their hat in it too, so it should be interesting. When we look at it, I think pitchers and catchers in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Yep.
Back at it. So it looks like with him, moving on to the boxing world, that Canelo Alvarez has agreed to fight Billy Joe Sanders. What do,
That's a
what do
good
we think of
fight.
that? Does that look like does that the fight you expected to see Canelo have? Let's answer that question.
Yeah, Reem, go ahead.
Um, I was gonna say at this point, Canelo is probably the best boxer. I would say pound for pound around. So I'm not sure like what else he has to prove. So at this point, just him fighting anybody, I think, is a is a big fight. Um, so I'm just happy to see him get back in the ring. To be honest with you, Canelo. Um, so I don't think I personally had any preference as to who he fights next, anything like that. I think the guy's a great fighter. I just want to see him fight.
This is a good fight for boxing fans who follow boxing like I do, so to speak. Bill Sultan is a very good fighter. He's a well-known fighter. He's a legit middleweight, top 10 middleweight in that division, or even top five, either junior middleweight or full middleweight. This is one of the fights where he could definitely have the skills and ability to challenge Canelo. He got some power too. I still like Canelo to win this fight, going in and win this fight, but it's definitely from a name standpoint, definitely should be a tough fight or a good fight for Canelo. But I see him pulling it out though for Canelo Alvarez. But name wise, Billy Joe is a good boxer, very good boxer.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it. I don't think. I think some people hear the names and they probably think it'll be a cakewalk, but it won't be a cake. It won't be a cakewalk. He'll have
Right.
he'll have to get in there and fight. Guy's gonna get his pound of flesh, so it'll be a good match. I mean,
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised to see it go to distance.
Right. Right. Well, Canelo has a tune-up coming out. He has a tune-up the next month, right? Canelo has a tune-up fight next month. Then he's gonna fight Billy Joe. So
Yeah. So I could definitely see that as being a good fight. Listen, do we think we have any other good fights coming on the horizon for 2021? Because it seems like the guys that we want to see fight each other, they either I don't know if in the behind the scenes they want to fight each other, but they're just not voicing it. And if they are voicing it, they're just throwing it out as sound bobs. I don't hear about any negotiations between any of these top guys trying to fight each other.
The main one I want to see probably is Crawford and Spence. That's the one I'm waiting for. I don't know if it's going to happen this year or ever, but I would love to see Crawford and Spence fight.
well, we do got Joshua against Fury fighting coming up this year, so
So,
that'd be good for the boxing fans.
Yeah.
Crawford and Spence is never going to happen. It's not going to happen because I'm assuming this from what I read and follow outlets. I think Spence is looking for a money bag.
Okay.
That's what he's doing. And I think he'd rather fight Pacquiao for money bag or Canelo before he fights Crawford for a money bag. So from a money standpoint, I can't blame him. From a
Yeah.
fan standpoint, of course, I want to see Crawford fight him. That'd be a great fight. Um, but I think his bitch right now is about getting that bag. And that bag has Canelo's name on it or Manny's name on it.
Yeah.
That's his mindset, so to speak, I should say.
So in a Crawford Spence fight, who's the draw? So because a lot of times what boxers get hung up on is that split, the split of the revenue and stuff like that. I mean, usually you can work out what the actual money's going to be, but it's usually the split where they get to. Who's the draw in that fight, Crawford or Spence?
I would say probably Spence is the bigger draw, um, which is where some of their alleged disagreement comes from, right? But I would say Spence is the bigger draw, in my opinion, than Crawford.
Yeah, I will lean towards Spence. I think he has the better resume of opponent, so to speak. But that being said, for guys who really follow the sport, it could go either way. I would say 50-50, but I wouldn't mind seeing 60-40 for Spence. I think Crawford would go for that if he was offered that, but he's not being offered. He's being offered 70-30,
No,
80-20.
Yeah,
So that doesn't sound like somebody wants to, right. So that
I
doesn't sound
think
like
he
somebody
would.
who wants to fight Crawford,
I think he would
But
take a 60-40. You
yeah, I think he
absolutely
would.
right.
I think
Yeah,
he
he would.
would. He would, but not 70-30. 70-30 for Crawford, you don't want to fight. You don't want to fight Crawford.
yeah, it's an insult at that point.
70, so you
Exactly
know,
what
you
it is.
fight 70-30 at? You fight 70-30 if I'm getting higher money and no belts involved.
Hmm.
So nothing's
Right.
on the line. So I don't lose anything. I don't think
Hmm.
Spence will take that fight, would he?
But now they're saying Spence going to fight you guys. You heard of you guys? The guy who fought Sean Porter maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I read somewhere recently that I think that might be in the works real soon. So if Spence do fight next, it'll be against you guys, not Porter or not a Porter rematch or not Crawford. It'll be you guys. Watch.
I don't think that'll be an easy fight either, though.
No, it won't. It won't. Spence pulled it out though, but it won't be an easy fight.
Man. So when we look at the week of sports or something, NCAA is still up and down. Just alone looking at today at these teams, you got all types of 8 losing to 19 and unranked teams beating ranked teams. I mean, I think some of that has to do with COVID, and I think some of them has to do with the competitive balance of players moving around the country. What you guys think of that?
yeah, I think it's nice to see that balance. We're used to seeing the Dukes, Kentuckies, North Carolinas, even though North Carolina's been down the last few years. But we're used to seeing these powerhouse teams dominate. So, like you said, to see this talent spread out a little bit to these mid majors um, and games just be more competitive, I think it's a good thing for college basketball.
Yeah, I love college ball. I love the parity of college ball right now, and it's getting more evenly killed, so to speak. No matter across the board, no matter what school you go to, you go to Navy or wherever you go to, wherever Marist doesn't matter. There's so much talent across the board. You just got to find the talent. So but the parity is great for college basketball. But the three best team right now clearly is definitely Gonzaga, Baylor, and Villanova. Then
Yeah.
there's the rest of the
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
What do you guys think about that college basketball bubble? They talk about having 3 mini bubbles in Indiana to do the tournament.
I think it's a good idea, given the times we're in. The bubble format seems to be like your safest bet. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, You're not trying to lose no money, man. So that's a good idea. Indiana's a state that has it has the facilities and arenas to get it done, so to speak. So I'm glad they set up a bubble in Indiana. Indiana is more of a high school, college environment when it comes to sports anyway. So that would be nice. So hopefully they get it done.
Yeah. So, guys, listen, as we wrap this up again this week, it's great talking to you guys. Any final words, Kareem?
Looking forward to Super Bowl. Um, that should be exciting. Outside of that, it's just been another, like you said, exciting week in sports. Great talking with you guys. So looking forward to the next show and Super Bowl.
Yeah, listen, my picks for the last 2 weeks has been bad. You guys have been on point, so I'm not picking no winner, but you guys know who I want to win. So I'm trying something different headed towards next week's show. So I'm not gonna say nothing. You guys should know who I want to win. So hopefully who I want to win wins next week. So I'm gonna try that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got one last thing. I was checking something out. An interesting fact came up. The Spurs beat the Lakers, the Clippers, they beat Boston, and they beat Philadelphia so far. Listen, man, I think Popovich is bringing it back with him with a no-name squad, but he's bringing it back. Yeah. But again,
Great
thank you
coach.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
thank you guys, man. I always enjoy talking to you guys, and we have another great show. I look forward to talking to you guys again next week.